Welcome to Impacting Jamaica, where we shine the spotlight on the many but often ignored positive happenings, activities, projects, and investments at every level across every sector to inspire, motivate, and excite people everywhere. Impacting Jamaica is powered by the Philip and Christine Gore Family Foundation, the Jamaica Public Service Company, Manpower and Maintenance Services Limited, Red Stripe, Kyramed, and Proven Investments Limited.
Welcome to Impacting Jamaica. I'm Tamika Gordon, and I'm speaking with Kemone Francis, motivational speaker and guidance counselor, author as well of Where Shame Ends, Grace Begins, Chronicles from the Redeemed. She's passionate about helping people, especially young women who are struggling with shame and rejection. So Ms. Francis will be sharing with us a little bit today about why this is so important to her and her work so far in this regard. Thank you for joining Impacting Jamaica, Ms. Francis.
Hi, Ms. Gordon. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Morning also to your listeners.
Great. It's good to have you. Let's begin by talking a little bit about you and where you're from and a little bit about your background to see what, if there's a connection between how you came to the stories that were chronicled in this book, Where are you from and how was it for you as a child?
All right, so I grew up in the Mountain View community, from Mountain View to the Greenwich Town community. My childhood was like the average childhood. Both my parents were available. Things were going good until my father was made redundant. And, from that, then a little hardship starts to step in where, some nights I had to go to bed, without the usual big meal that I am accustomed to. I can remember at one point in time when my father had to, go down to Missionaries of the Poor to get some biscuits. I don't know how many persons know of those biscuits, but went down to Missionaries of the Poor to get some biscuits and some beans. And those were some of the things that we ate for, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The rent was piling up. But there's one particular thing that I can remember. My father was very keen on ensuring that we got an education so that we were able to move through this social status, informing us that this is not our final destination. So even though we did not have, the money, even though we did not have the food, but he always ensured that we went to school nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
However, during my high school years, I can admit that, regardless of the struggle that I was facing at the time, I did not attend all my classes. So grade 7, grade 8, and grade 9, those years I wasted at high school. But I can remember one particular day while coming from underneath
Hold on a bit. What do you mean wasted? You were at school, right?
I was at school, but I sculled those classes.
So grade 7, 8, and 9, 3 years.
7, grade 8, and grade 9.
Why were you sculling?
I was placed at a non-traditional high school, and I did not, I wasn't so happy with my GSAT placement. And I went there and I gave into peer pressure, and I started hanging out with some friends who themselves were not so keen. We were just entering into high school and we didn't really know what to expect. We didn't have that guidance, and we were not settled. So we just entered in, and not knowing what to expect, we just quote unquote leg up about the place. But I loved sciences at the time. And I can recall one particular day coming from underneath the mango tree, because that was our spot. So we would arrive at school, we would bring our newspaper, we would bring our playing cards, and we usually sat underneath the mango tree. And I can recall one particular day while coming from underneath the mango tree on the playfield, a teacher saw me and she said to me, "Kemone, that is not who you are. There is more to you than that." And Miss Gordon, those words convicted me. So much so that, when it was time for us to move to make our selections for our subject areas and, our career choices. When I went into grade 10, I had to do an introspection of myself. I had to find out, to tell myself, "Kemone, You cannot be allowing the parents' money to be wasting. I have to make a concerted decision. I had to rethink my life. I had to evaluate myself to see whether this is what I am going to be. I'm just going to come to school for the 5 years and just pass through high school. I had to make a choice, and a choice for the better. So much so, Miss Gordon, that when I was in grade 10, I was approached by one of the teachers in grade 10 asking me if I wanted to become a head girl. And to
Mm.
my surprise, yes, to my surprise, I turned behind me to look if there was somebody else behind me. Because I'm like, me, sir? The vice principal knew me, the dean of discipline knew me. I mean, I had a bad record for those 3 years. And to have this teacher now approaching me, and he said, yes, Kimon, you, you have the qualities. You may be rough on some areas, but I see a leader in you. And, I sat up my seat, and therein was my other conviction. And I sat up my seat, and it dawned on me the entire night when I went home. I was just there thinking, wow, oh my gosh. And I went in the following day and I did the interview for the head girl. And to my surprise, I was successful. And so, it allowed me to know, to get an understanding, to appreciate the fact that somebody saw something within me while I was on the wrong path.
So you
While
moved from a truant to a role
yes,
model.
yes. And yes, it had to do with my choice and my decision, but somebody saw that. Somebody watered it for me. Somebody helped me to see the light, helped me
How,
to believe in myself and what I can become.
how did those experiences influence your career path?
Ah, so when I left um my high school, and that was Puppy in high school, big up, big up, big up. When I left Puppy in high school, I went to St. George's College for their sixth form, and I started studying the social sciences. And then when I left St. George's College, I went to pursue a bachelor's in psychology to get more understanding of human behavior. While studying for my undergrad, I had obtained a job working in a ministry, one of the government entities. And while I was there, I also went back to study for my master's, and I chose counseling and social work. And persons asked after I had completed my master's, why are you going into the classroom? Why are you leaving your corporate office to go into the classroom? Could you go to go and deal with these rude children? But I saw a quote shortly after Miss Gordon that says it is easy to build young minds than to repair broken adults. And therein, I knew I was making the right decision. Somebody helped me. I'm not going to sit down and be selfish with the value that was placed. Sit down and be selfish with the fact that somebody came out and saw that my fire was dying down and they fanned the fire for me. So I decided that I want to go into the classroom, into the institutions to help some of these young children to mold their young minds so that they too can become a better version of themselves, so that they too can grow up and have their dreams and their aspirations become a reality. And that is where I have been since 2018 within the classroom.
Okay. How did the motivational speaker element now come in?
Listen, Miss Gordon, sometimes you see, God has a way of opening doors and opportunities for us. So little did I know that I was being prepared for greater platforms, because even while I was working within that government entity, persons who knew of my story, who knew of my journey, who knew where I am today, who knew of the back end. They don't only see the front end, but they know what happened in the back end. And the inspiration that I had on young people started to reach out to me, and the invitation started coming for me to speak at graduation ceremonies, at banquets, whenever the school related things, church also, whenever time, it's especially during child months, and the opportunities, they kept coming. And mark you, this was while I was working, at a government entity, not yet having my career dreams become a reality. So when I saw all of those things happening, I decided that, okay, might as well do what I love, follow my passion, follow my heart. And to this date, I have no regrets.
Mm-hmm. What's the greatest level of achievement you think, or what's the most impactful moment you think you have experienced as a motivational speaker?
My most impactful moment was
Or the
going
most
back.
impact you think that you have made, through your motivational talks?
Going back to Papine High School. They had an open day session last year, and I was invited as the guest speaker last year. And to the surprise of the audience, hearing that, I mean, as I said before, they see the appearance, they see the front end, but they are not familiar with what takes place on the back end. So when I shared my story with them, it was captivating to them. It was impactful for them. I recall one particular student came up to me and she said, "Miss Francis, thank you. Thank you for taking the time out to come and to share with us. I am encouraged. I am encouraged." And it warms my heart after hearing that. It was also an emotional moment for me because persons actually can relate with my experience and also find hope, believe again, be hopeful, knowing that this particular individual who attended the same school went through this, and now she's here.
So yes, you're able to make a connection.
Yes, able to make a connection.
Yeah.
There was another moment for me, and this was in regards to my book, where
I was just about to ask you how you
yes.
came to write your book. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was this particular moment for me in regards to my book where, it was at my book launch that, everything just started unfolding, where I am now seeing that, hey, this book is actually a ministry. This book is being used to help women. There was this particular parent who came to visit me. And, I was sharing with her, discussing matters with her concerning her child. And before she left, I gave her a copy of my book. And, her daughter came back the following week and she was saying to me, "Miss, after mommy read your book, she started crying and she said that she's going to go back to church." And she went to church the night and she went to the altar and she was just crying. And she has been walking around with your book ever since. You should wear the black bag, she put it in there. You should wear the brown bag, she put it in there. And, that was just another moment for me to know that, whatever my struggles, whatever my trials, all things have worked together for my good. And God has a divine purpose and plan for our lives. He's intentional with everything that he does.
We're taking a break now to hear from our sponsors.
John, me know you're in there. Me want know when lights come back. I know Pinky this time.
Keisha, just like me tell Pinky, give JPS your number and then we'll send your text with them things here. So you can stop, knock me door.
What you mean?
DM or call JPS and tell them to add your phone number to your account and you will know everything all the time.
You never ask. Send your current contact information and always be in the know. Visit jpsco.com for more info.
Searching for a one-stop solution to all your facilities maintenance needs? Visit Manpoint Maintenance Services Sales and Distribution Center. We stock a wide range of COVID-19 washroom cleaning and other supplies, gardening tools, chemicals, and more. Our experts are always ready to give you the best advice. Manpoint Maintenance Services Sales and Distribution Center, 14 Collins Green Avenue, Kingston, Freeport Commercial Center, Montego Bay, and 33 Ward Avenue, Mandeville. Visit or call us today, 876-920-47215.
Thank you for joining us on Impacting Jamaica. We're speaking with Kemone Francis, motivational speaker, guidance counselor, and author. Tell me about the book itself.
All right. So the book is entitled Where Shame Ends, Grace Begins, Chronicles from the Redeemed. It captures the story of three youngsters who struggled with fornication, which led to pregnancy, also unforgiveness and suicidal ideations despite being called Christians. It also goes to highlight the reception that they received from the church community when their matters were brought to the forefront, how they felt, how they questioned whether it is that God feels the same way about them. Does he love them anymore? Is this my final chapter? Is this how my life is going to turn out? But it ends with them finding restitution, with the help of non-judgmental clergymen who help them to find their way back to the fold. So it's a beautiful story of these three youngsters. All in all, it just, it's used as an empowerment tool to let readers know that, you are more than your circumstances, that your mistakes are not final. So readers will be left with an increased confidence in God, with an increased self-awareness and self-worth. It also helps to bring healing to whatever past mistake or past hurt that they may have encountered from the community.
Why suicidal ideation? So, the typical church response to people who have fallen,
Mm-hmm.
But why was suicide so important for you to write about?
Because, there many times people overall, but I am just going to zero in on these Christians. But many times, Christians, we put on a face and we go to church, we dress up in our nice hat and our nice clothes with the loudest hallelujah. But, hidden underneath it all, there are some internal problems that persons are struggling with. But, there's this whole stigma with mental health where, a person feel that if they open their mouth to speak about it, they will be looked down on, they'll be treated with disdain. So suicidal ideation was one of those particular topics that, I thought is necessary. One of those topics that is necessary to deal with, and to help persons to understand that whatever mistake, whatever thing that you may have encountered, whatever situation that you may have found yourself in, and you thought that you would have wanted to take in your life, and with persons knowing about it, hearing about it, the family is now stigmatized. When you go to work, there may be a stigma, but to also let persons know that regardless of the situation and the condition, the Lord tells us that he is going to give us beauty for ashes. Mm-hmm. So along with the ideations and everything, when we put our hope and our trust in God, as well as find a community that can nurture you, a community that can water you, a community that can help you to become a better person, not a community who will constantly remind you about your past, but a community that can help you to get past your past is essential. And the book captures all of that.
Right. Very interesting indeed. Did any of the stories emanate from your experiences, what you would have observed, what you grew up and saw, and what you would have experienced even in adolescence, going to high school? Any of that?
Yes. The two stories, the one with fornication being led to pregnancy, and another with suicidal ideation and unforgiveness. All three are, things that I have observed growing up.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about your work in respect to helping young people, to overcome, shame and rejection. Apart from the book, what else are you involved with?
Sure. So earlier this year, in January, I had a webinar entitled, Releasing Unforgiveness and Self-Sabotage, Let It Go. I am also a part of the Joy Town Community Development Foundation, where I serve as one of their camp guidance counselors. Shortly after my book was released, I was contacted by the founder of Totally Well Women's Community, and she had engaged my services to serve as counselor, providing group counseling services to the women to also help them, heal in a therapeutic manner.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the contributory factors, that would lead young people to be in that space? And how do you think that as a society, we can help to get them from that point to living fruitful and productive lives?
Some of the contributing factors that I have seen during my practice that I have also observed: the lack of support from family. The lack of support from family. Over time, we have often heard that the home is the first agent of socialization. Sad to say, unfortunately, many of the homes are not healthy. And as a result of that, our young people, they tend to get engulfed with, the emotions and what is happening. Some of them don't know how to deal with their emotions in a healthy manner. And they get themselves, aligned with things that would be considered things that would be considered, against the social norms, things that would break down their values, their morals, and, help drive them onto choosing, making bad choices and making bad decisions. So I believe that without the support from the family, without the support of a parent, without the support of, a healthy community, or youngsters end up making bad choices and end up making bad decisions. Now, the shame and rejection comes in when, persons are so engulfed in their emotions that they are not thinking about what they're doing at that particular point in time. However, after the act has been committed, then they start to, feel bad about themselves and feel bad about what it is that they have done after the act has been committed. And then, when things started to come to unfold to them, then they started saying, if me didn't know, I could have and I should have and I would have. But, I just want to encourage someone to let them know that there's life after. If me didn't know, there's life after. I could have, there's life after. I should have, there's life after. I would have. Because our mistakes, they are not etched in stones. Even a detour sometimes can still lead us to our purpose. And so, the intent is mine to empower women in particular, or young people, to help them to know that, God has this beautiful life for us, to help them to see themselves as how Christ makes them to be, right? To see themselves despite their shame, to live an unapologetic life, a life where, yes, I have done this and yes, I have done that, but this is not me. This is not who I am. There is more to me than I am not my past. I am not what happened to me, but there is more to me than this, and I am going to live an unapologetic life. So my experiences may have shaped my future and helped me to make the right choices, helped me to make the right decisions. But I am not going there anymore. I do not live there anymore.
Right. Ms. Francis, I don't think we actually touched on the reason that led you to write the book. So I get the message and all of that, but why did you feel the need to actually, craft this project?
Let me tell you, Miss Gordon. So my book came about as a result of some challenges that I had experienced in 2019. So in 2019, when I made the announcement to my church community that, I was getting engaged, I was relieved of my positions. I was told that I could not testify in church. And, this is a community that I have served for over 7 years. Nevertheless, I sat there and I praised my way through. I worshiped my way through. But I can recall on January 2021, I woke up reciting Isaiah 41, verses 18 to 20. I will open rivers in dry places. I will plant a cedar tree in the wilderness, and I woke up reciting that. I went, I printed the words and I placed the words in my room, pasted it on my wall. And I said, okay, Lord, if you said it, I believe you. a couple of months after that, as I sat in church,
Let's backtrack a bit. Why would you be relieved of your duties if you're getting married or getting engaged?
I was getting married to an unsaved. I was engaged to an unsaved.
Okay.
Yes. So a couple months after, I sat in church and, the Holy Spirit ministered to me and, he said, no, right. My people are hurting. No, right. So when I went home, I took up my laptop and I just started preparing the manuscript. Miss Gordon, it took me 3 months to complete. 3 months. And, after in October of that year, the book was released. I received some wonderful stories.
October 2019?
2021. Okay. 2 years after. Yes. The book was released. I got some wonderful feedback from the book, persons stating how the book has helped them. The book is now being used both locally and internationally in book clubs, and I am just grateful for God.
Tell me a little bit about that in terms of the awards or recognition that the book has received.
Yes. So it was released in 2021. It has been opening some platforms for me that I never dreamed of. But as the word of God said it, I will open rivers. And, he has completed his promises. So in April 2022, I was awarded second place in the Top Women's Empowerment category of the Kingdom in the Authors Award. And this has also opened, platforms for me to share with women, to encourage them, to let them know that their mess can also be turned into a message. So my aim is to empower women, to empower young persons, not to condemn them by their past, by what has happened to them, but to help them to know that there is still beauty in them, even after a horrible, even after a messy situation.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. It was indeed a pleasure. And I can just imagine, that there's much further where your book is going to go, even, accomplish even more in terms of its impact. This has been Impacting Jamaica. Thank you so much for joining, Ms. Francis.
Thank you for having me, Ms. Gordon.
Impacting Jamaica is powered by the Philip and Christine Gore Family Foundation, Manpower and Maintenance Services Limited, the Jamaica Public Service Company, Red Stripe, Kyramed, and Proven Investments Limited. If you or anyone you know is involved with projects and activities that excite, motivate, and encourage, send us an email to impactingjamaica@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Do join us again for another in the series on Google Podcast, Audible, Spotify, Podcast Addict, and Stitcher. You can also visit us at impactingjamaica.com.